Hello friends, my name is Bintou and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I actually want to talk about the three different types of reading, physical books, ebooks, and audiobooks. And I actually came up with a list of like 3 pros and 1 con for each of the 3. And I thought it'd be fun to create a video on that. So that's what today's video is about. Now, before I get into my version of like the 3 pros and cons for each of these 3 forms of media, I want to mention that I don't believe in this gatekeeping of reading that seems to happen sometimes, especially when it comes to audiobooks. So some people don't see audiobooks as like a valid form of reading. I think all 3 forms are totally valid, and the whole point is that they kind of make reading more accessible to more people, and that is a beautiful thing. I think that it's great that more people have access to books in a way that they may not have had in the past, and that's why all 3 of these have at least one advantage over maybe the other 2 forms. So let's start with physical books. So I've got a physical book here. I think that the biggest pro for physical book is that they are the most accessible, in my opinion, type of book available to everyone for 2 main reasons. First of all, you can get physical books for completely free through your public library, which means that finances are not a barrier to physical books, or they don't have to be anyway. And there's no device needed. So for the other 2 that we'll get into, you need some sort of device to be able to access those forms of reading. The second major pro for physical books is that they are, in my opinion, the easiest when you're trying to read for reference. And this is specifically true if I'm reading for nonfiction or if I am reading for class. So you can see, for example, I can very easily flip through a physical book and find notes that I've written on the book, whether it's on post-its, and then I like to, at the end of a chapter, kind of do a large post-it with a summary there. Much easier to be able to flip through and find things in a physical book than I can in an ebook or audiobook. And then the third pro, this is important to a lot of people, and I think it makes sense, is that physical books are just more aesthetically pleasing. This is like a very, very beautiful cover that I have on this book, Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments here. And just being able to touch it as well, it is very nice. And being able to hold books and have them physically present means that you can kind of spark conversations with people that you wouldn't be able to do as quickly as you could with ebooks or audiobooks. Those are the 3 pros for me with physical books. Really, the only con that I have with physical books is that they just take up a lot of space. That's why I lean away from them and prefer to simply borrow them and then return them, and that kind of solves the space issue. So yeah, that's the only con with physical books for me personally. All right, next up we have ebooks. Ebooks are probably my favorite of the 3. Although whether I do physical or ebook, I tend to at this point pretty much always combine it with audiobook. But if I had to choose one form, I think ebooks are my number 1. So the pros of ebooks. The first pro is that they are massive space savers. So I can store hundreds of ebooks on this one tiny little device here, and I can take it with me anywhere I want to go. And you don't even need a Kindle device or like a Kobo device or a dedicated e-reading device, because ebooks are available pretty much on devices that you already own, like your cell phone or if you have a tablet. Obviously, because I read a lot, it's worth it for me to get a dedicated e-reading device. But yeah, that's like the most obvious thing with ebooks, is that they save a ton of space. The second major pro for ebooks is the convenience factor. So ebooks are extremely convenient. You can literally buy a new book from the comfort of your own home without like getting out of your couch immediately and have it delivered immediately and start reading it immediately. So like with ebooks, everything is available immediately. And that's not a small thing to overlook. And even if it's library books, for example, I can borrow library ebooks from the comfort of my own home just using my phone. And it'll be delivered immediately if it's available, or whenever it becomes available, I just get a notification and I can borrow it right away, and it's delivered to my device, and I never have to make a trip to the library. The other major conveniences is that these things have lights, which means that I can easily read in the day or the night without having light sources on around me. And you can very easily change things like font sizes on the book that you're reading. So if you have vision problems or you just prefer larger font, you can do that very easily on an ebook, whereas you would not be able to change the font font size on a physical book. You're just stuck with whatever the printed size is. Of course, they do make large font physical books, but that's not available for all books, and they're not as easily available as just getting regular sized font. So yeah. And then onto the con of ebook, and that's simply that you need some sort of device. Again, I would say that for the most part, in this day and age, most people have smartphones, so it's not as huge of a barrier as it may have been in the past. But yeah, you still need something, whether it be a smartphone, a tablet, or an e-reader. And so for that reason, ebooks aren't the most accessible form of reading for everyone. And this is probably mostly true for young children. Most young children don't have smartphones, and so they would not be able to read ebook. And now on to audiobooks. I love audiobooks. They are so convenient. The first pro of audiobooks is that I can listen to a story while I'm doing other things. And that's actually my favorite way to consume audiobooks, because if I'm not doing something, I find that I will just fall asleep if I'm listening to an audiobook. So yes, they're super, super helpful for multitasking. And I love listening to audiobooks if I'm out for a walk, if I'm driving as part of a commute, if I am cooking dinner, if I'm cleaning my kitchen, my bathroom, just if I'm doing chores or tasks that I have to do and I can listen to something while I'm doing them, audiobooks are perfect for that. The second pro for audiobooks is that their performance. I think that the performance that the really, really good voice actors bring to the book just take the reading experience to the next level, especially when we are listening to dialogue between characters. If you listen to a really badly narrated audiobook, then this could be bad, but the really, really well done audiobooks just make the reading experience so great. And the third major pro for audiobooks is I feel like audiobooks are bringing more people who maybe previously didn't consider themselves readers or don't believe that they have the time to sit down and read books. It's gotten more of those people to read more books. And I think that's a great thing. If more people are able to pick up books and read them more, and audiobooks allow them to do that, that's fantastic. And the fact that audiobooks are available through public libraries, most audiobooks I can find through my public library, that's even more fantastic. And onto the cons of audiobooks. So the first con, I mentioned this earlier, I'm generally far more likely to space out when I am just listening to an audiobook versus when I'm just reading a physical book or just reading an ebook. So audiobooks aren't something that I can listen to if I'm just idly sitting around doing nothing. I have to be doing something, and for some reason that allows me to keep my focus. And usually my favorite way to listen to audiobooks is while I'm reading the book. And so I've got the reading experience, I'm coming at the reading experience from two different angles, and really helps me focus. And I would consider audiobooks to be the least accessible form of the three versions, because like ebooks, they do require a device. Again, a smartphone, which most people have in this day and age, will be enough to access audiobook. But I think in general, audiobooks are the priciest of the three forms of reading. And on top of that, not all books out there are available as audiobooks. And if you do happen to stumble upon an audiobook of a book that is hard to find, then it'll likely be on the more expensive side. All right, guys, so that is my take on the pros and cons of physical books, ebooks, and audiobooks. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite version. Like I said, I tend to lean, if I had to pick one, it's ebooks, but audiobooks are a close second, and then physical books are a very, very close third. So I like all three of them. I like to alternate between all three forms, and I do have like all three forms in my possession right now. And I think it's super great that they all exist and allow more people to read more books. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.